everybody. Welcome to Barely Filtered. So we're doing something kind of different today. I'm actually recording this introduction 2 weeks after I recorded the rest of the episode. So we have David Ghiyam on this episode, and he is an amazing spiritual teacher. He teaches Jewish mysticism called Kabbalah. And we decided that we were going to start retroactively filming the introduction so that I could tie them into what I learned from talking to the guest. Now, this is an interesting one because David talked a lot about when you want a response from the universe, and this doesn't need to be woo-woo. If you don't like universe talk, then you could just think about it in more practical terms. But basically, if you're putting something out into the universe about wanting something, maybe a relationship, maybe the job, but then a part of your action or belief kind of contradicts what you're saying that you want, then basically the universe is confused and you're not going to get what you are half telling the universe that you want. Okay, let me try to be a little bit more clear about this. Basically, what David was saying is that if a girl, let's say me, is saying that she wants a relationship because she's interested in having a relationship because she's going on dates trying to find a guy, but then everything else in her life, including how she sets up her time, her priorities, even her home with the kids that sleep with her, is basically pointing to the fact that maybe she actually doesn't really want a relationship. Maybe I'm not getting a relationship because I don't actually want one. And maybe the guys that are showing up are just matching what I'm putting out, which is a little confusion about what is it that we actually want? What are we doing here? Am I just dating because I'm bored? Or am I dating because I'm trying to fill up space? Or I think a lot of times we think if we're not actively doing something about something, then it's not going to get better. But sometimes the best thing to do is nothing, because it feels like the dating that I've been doing is kind of just, I'm on a hamster wheel and I'm getting nowhere. And I'm honestly wasting a lot of time. Is it wasted time? I'm learning about myself. But I mean, between kids and a business and, the podcast and everything, it's hard to justify spending time on dating when do I actually want to be in a relationship? I think I need to start getting more clear about that. So I have a confession to make. The guy that I talked about last week, where we went to dinner at a hotel and then he disappeared but left a card on the table. Or no, a guy came by and dropped a room key on the table after I was sitting there for like 15 minutes starting to get pretty pissed that I had been left. And it was a room key and I was like, I don't know what this is. I mean, I kind of knew what it was. I was annoyed by the whole idea of it. Like, I don't want to be surprised with a hotel room by a guy who I've never slept with. It just felt very presumptuous and aggressive. I like aggressiveness in men, but it has to be so perfectly timed. And it has to be with somebody that you really trust. And it has to be something that you want. I don't know. I did not like. But I went up to the room and I told you guys that we did not sleep together. I lied. We did sleep together. And I was really annoyed with myself because this is a hard topic to talk about, but if you're a woman, you might understand this, especially if you've ever been married before. Well, or just like in a relationship. Do you ever feel like sometimes you just have sex with somebody because it's the easier option? This is not okay. This is not an advice column. Clearly, I have not figured this out myself, but I was so annoyed with myself afterwards. You guys know I never lie to you. I always tell you everything on here, to my own detriment, as all my friends are like, stop sharing all your business. Then that's why everything gets messed up, because who's going to want to date you if you're just sharing all the information? I don't know. I guess I don't really want to date because this is what I'm choosing to do right now. But I did have sex with him, and it was really just because I felt like I was supposed to, because he got this stupid room and it made me more annoyed with him. And the sex was bad because I was not attracted to him. I was annoyed with him at that moment and I wanted to go home. And I was like, well, what do I have to do to get out of here? This is so bad. But I know that I'm not alone. Like, have you ever just had sex with your husband to shut him up, keep him happy? This is different because it was a new guy who I had known for only a few weeks. But I wish I could say that's the first time that I've done that. But I definitely, in my dating years, before I was married and everything, I definitely have just had sex with, because it's the easier option rather than having to like firmly state your boundaries for the 900th time and try to convince them that your boundaries are accurate. I've had like a week to think about this, and I realized that this is not something I'm going to be doing anymore. I'm not going to try to justify why I don't feel like having sex yet, why I'm not ready to have sex yet with a guy. And I think sometimes, if you want to have casual sex with somebody, all for it. I don't think that's something I do easily because I beat myself up after about it because I wasn't ready to with him. And I felt pressured, and I did it because I didn't want to disappoint him, I think is what it comes down to. I mean, I am kind of a bitch in a lot of ways, but I am a people pleaser. I want people to be happy with me. I want people to be happy in general. I don't want to be the person who's like relaying bad news. And I think with men, women know that we can do that with our bodies sometimes. And it's not a good or a bad thing. It just is. That's just how it is. And it's something to think about because if you don't feel badly about yourself afterwards and you enjoyed the sex, then I don't have any judgment for that. But I think what I'm learning in my dating experience, which I'm learning a lot, is that doesn't work for me. I don't like feeling like I should explain my boundaries. They should have a need to understand my boundaries. I don't think having sex because you feel like you should, or it's been long enough and now it's time, or because the guy has, put in this many hours and now you owe it to him. I feel like those are the thoughts that sometimes cross my mind that I need to check myself on because afterwards, after I've given that part of me to someone, it is true that with men, I feel like there's this switch that gets turned off in them because there's not a need to pursue quite as much anymore after you have sex. And maybe I'm just saying that because of the way this ended up turning out. It gets worse. So I had sex with him. Then we had another date. I went to his house and we had dinner together. And honestly, like we laughed so hard. But when you get along so well with somebody and it's almost like the nail in the coffin because you know that you're just so friend zoned. It like the things that we joked about were just not things that you joke about with somebody that you're trying to look sexy for. And like, I don't know, he had real brother, which is disgusting. I just said I had sex with him, but he had like real brother friend vibes the way that we interacted. We just laughed. We made fart jokes. It just was not like a budding romance. And so since we had already had sex before, we had sex again. There was no emotional connection. I didn't feel really desired by him. I think he could tell I was not totally desiring him. And this is the 5th date. So whatever. It was just another round of like sex with a friend. That's what that felt like, which was not exciting. And I don't think either of us were like blown away by it. But something in me is like, still give him a chance because he's so nice. We get along so well. We laugh so much together and we were hanging out so much. I felt like he was a friend. Like we really had grown pretty close in a short period of time. We both we're like manically dating each other. This was like a 2-week period. We'd been together 5 times over 2 weeks and he was gone for half that time. So like every day that he was actually home, we were hanging out. So this is when things get kind of go sideways and it threw me for a loop. The next day, we were actually planning on going to this Buddhist temple that I really love called Lake Shrine in Malibu. But I couldn't go. I had something else come up. So he went, whatever. He called me after to tell me all about it. And we were on the phone for like an hour laughing about different things. And then he says to me, actually, I wanted to chat with you too about one last thing. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, I just don't really know if like we should be dating anymore. I'm just feeling like maybe I'm not ready for dating. It was like he was kind of trying to say he's not ready for dating in general, but also very specifically was like, you. I don't want to date you. So long story short, I essentially got dumped again. This is the second guy in a row who's ended it, but like ended it like I was gonna end it eventually. I wasn't ready yet. I was trying to feel it out. I was trying to give it a little bit more time because I don't like to cut things off prematurely. And also I think maybe I didn't want to hurt his feelings. There's a few different reasons. I liked hanging out with him. And He made the more bold, mature decision of not letting things get further along when we both knew that this was a friend zone dynamic that had occurred. But a part of me was just like, you motherfucker, I had sex with you. I did not want to have sex with you. He knew that I was like, I don't want to do this for like a few months. I don't want to have sex before commitment because I have more emotion at stake now that I've given you that part of me. And he did exactly what I said I was afraid would happen if I had sex with somebody. That, you give every part of yourself now to somebody and he's like, nah, I'm out. I'm like, that is so insulting. It took me a good day to get my ego back in check. I felt very whiplashed. I felt like the dating just felt so manic and intense. And that's why I felt whiplash, because it's like, okay, you wanted to hang out with me every day in a row for 5 days. And now you're like, I'm out. It just was very jarring to me. And then he texted me 2 days later and he was like, about like some inside joke that we had about how I don't like any mayo-based salads. He texted me like a picture of a salad. And I'm like, you can't just, I didn't say this. It was like, you dumped me. You can't just text me. And then he texted me again he's been texting me. Oh, it's a weird thing because I feel like we kind of miss each other, but we don't like each other. I'm trying to really remember what it feels like to be in love because it's been a while. And I feel like I've lost touch with what that is. But you know that feeling like that person could do anything and you just want to smell them because they're just, everything about them is just so, you just love them. And you want to have sex with them. You think they're so sexy and they make you excited and they make you nervous and all the, like, there was absolutely none of that. There was none of that. And he didn't feel it and I didn't feel it. So why would I be upset that he broke it off with me? He was just making the mature decision that we both knew. And the reason you'd be upset is because of our egos. And that is what I'm trying to just check myself for, because it's never a good feeling when someone else straight up is like, you're not it for me. There's going to be more no's than yeses. I'm not going to be for everybody. Not everybody's for me. So why would I ever be insulted when somebody is willing to admit that or be introspective and observant enough to realize that? I think as women especially, we think that we need to be for everybody. We need to be sexy to everybody. We need to be funny to everybody. But then if you're making everybody happy, then you're not being a real person, because you need to be uniquely perfect for that one special person. And that's what I'm holding out on. So I think his rejection was a gift. It was redirection for me. And what did I learn from this crazy ass 2-week dating experience? I feel like we had a whole relationship in 2 weeks and now here I am dumped again. What did I learn? I'm not going to be explaining my boundaries to men anymore. They do not need to understand them. They just need to respect them. And I am not going to have sex with people just to shut them up. I mean, it seems logical enough, but I am no longer going to do that. And I'm not going to do that when I'm in a relationship anymore either. I remember in my marriage, I would always be like, oh, fine. Because men are so much nicer to you when you have sex with them. Oh, but nobody wants to feel pressured to do that. And actually, I remember I follow Xander and Vanessa. They came on once. They are a couple, husband and wife, and they're sex experts. And something came up on my feed from them about how they keep their marriage spicy. And they both want to have sex with each other every single time they have sex. That, to me, was kind of mind-blowing. I'm like, oh, wow, both people equally want to have sex. And they've been together for, many, many years. So it's possible. And they have a lot of tips on their account about how to keep things spicy and how to have great sex. That was a little bit of a tangent. But anyway, so yeah, that's what happened with me. Single again. I guess I was still single, but I was exclusively dating one person for 2 weeks and now I'm single again. But I'm going to take a little break, I think, because what I'm putting out into the universe is a little chaotic, is the consensus around here. I don't know if I really want to be in a relationship. I think I probably don't. And that is why I am attracting people who also are not ready to be in relationships either, or are just confused about what they want. Because this last guy was definitely confused about what he wanted. He aggressively pursued me hardcore and then pivoted and changed his mind. That's chaos. I'm attracting chaos. So I'm going to take a break. I know I said that before, but I'm going to take just a little break from the dating. Although one last thing. I did get approached by a dating no, what is she? She's a matchmaker. And she DM'd me and she's like, hey, I have a guy that I think you'd be perfect for. I don't even know how this woman found me. She has a whole account on helping men to be matched with women. So she's strictly the advocate for the man, which is an interesting side to take. And she like sent me this guy's information and was like, would you be okay if he contacted you? And I was like, okay, sure. So he contacted me and he lives in Texas though, but he's going to come out here. Maybe we're going to go on a date. I don't know. I'm not holding my breath. We'll see. But I'll be sharing that with you guys. It's all for the content at this point. Maybe that's the chaos. The universe is like, do you want a boyfriend or do you want content? And right now, I think I just want content. So at least we have come to that conclusion together. Okay, love you guys. Now I'm going to segue to our guest, David Ghiyam. He is just a breath of fresh air in so many ways, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear what he has to say. Okay, we are here with my very special guest. His name is David Ghiyam, and he was brought to me by God, aka the Instagram algorithm. They were like, you need some wisdom from this man. David co-founded MaryRuth's Organics, which I'm sure you guys have seen or heard of because it is one of the top supplement brands in the country, in the world.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing also for somebody who, so David and I have had lunch before. I know a little bit about him, and I know that you took a vow of poverty at one point. Like, evidently that vow was up because you were like, I'm gonna make some money now. So tell me, let's back up, because David is also, would you call yourself a Kabbalah spiritual teacher?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I it's an interesting story. I know I shared it with you, but short of it is, when I was 15, I found Kabbalah, which is like ancient universal spiritual wisdom. It appealed to me in such a way that I was so inspired. I quickly kind of wanted to rush through school. And then when I was 20, I said, yeah, that's where the vow of poverty came in. I joined a charitable organization just to bring this wisdom to the world. And so I just traveled the world teaching seminars and doing coaching. I didn't monetize it. I did it all for charity. And then when I was 29, MaryRuth and I, we co-founded a business, which actually ended up was supposed to just be a side thing that we did to have some form of a lifestyle. Can't just work for charity. The company ended up growing and being what it is today.
So let me get this straight. You went from being like, I'm not going to make any money, to just being like, I'm going to try this thing. I hear people make companies sometimes. And It was just like this uber successful company.
It literally was. We had no money. We were in debt. I think I had like $700. At the time, we both lived in New York City. She's from the wellness world. I'm from the spiritual side. And we just said, well, let's create a product. And from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m., because I still had another job, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. every night, I just watched YouTube videos, learned how to do graphic design, Facebook ads, Amazon, supply chain, you name it. I learned everything just on YouTube. And we came out with our first product, threw it up on Amazon. It was a liquid vitamin, and nobody was doing liquids by then. So it was very revolutionary. It was 2014.
Oh, wow. Relatively recently.
Yeah, so 10 years. The company's around for 10 years.
Yeah.
Came out with one product, and I don't even think we hired our first employee till we hit like 10 million in revenue. I think it was like 2-3 years in, and it just took on.
Wow. So, how much of that success do you attribute to Kabbalah
100%.
And the principles that you learned there?
For me, I would say 100%.
Really?
I would say if I didn't have a spiritual foundation, spiritual wisdom that kind of shows you the blueprint of how this universe works. If I just had to use my own talent, brain, intellect, which isn't that great, I have no business background whatsoever. And I would say that so many miracles came along the way, the right people, so much chaos was avoided. There were a lot of challenges, but Kabbalah gave me the tools, the wisdom, the consciousness, the strength, the unlimited belief system and mindset to be able to help manifest it with MaryRuth.
Wow. Okay, let's back up here, because I know people listening are probably like, okay, what the hell is Kabbalah?
Yeah, what is this?
Before you give us that exact blueprint, because we all want that, tell us, what is Kabbalah?
All right. So a lot of people have different ideas of what Kabbalah is, because they remember kind of maybe 20 years ago when all the celebrities started to study it. Some people are like, well, is it a religion? Is it a philosophy? Kabbalah is this universal, ancient spiritual wisdom that existed since the beginning of time. But the first real person to kind of bring it to this world was Abraham. And from that, many different religions came. That's why if you look at my audience profile on social, it's people from every religious and spiritual background, even people who don't believe in God or a creator. They're very enamored by this wisdom of Kabbalah because it explains very simply how energy works. That we are souls that came down to this world as vessels to receive this energy of source or this energy of miracles. And then there's this energy. And the question is, what are the rules to life? What are the spiritual rules to life to access this light? All the pain and suffering we have in our lives, all the darkness, is a result of not connecting to this energy. And in the same way, we have physical laws in this world, like gravity. We all have to abide by gravity, even if we believe it or not. There are spiritual laws behind relationships, soulmates, drawing down your purpose in life, tapping into more certainty, removing stress, anxiety. A lot of times people turn to drugs or other forms of instant gratification to relieve their pain. But the truth is, there's a much more powerful energy. I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying it's just more powerful, and it can give you more of a long-term connection to everything that you want. And that's really why our soul came to this world. So Kabbalah just explains how you tap your soul into that energy. And then the darkness goes away. It's very simple. Any type of problem or challenge people have in their lives, even business problems, right? People come to me with like, oh, my company's like this and that. And they're expecting me to give them business advice.
Right.
And there are practical business things to do, but I always first start with the spiritual. I say, if you don't first solve this in the upper worlds, this physical world is just a shadow of what's going on in the upper worlds. If you don't first solve it on that level, you're chasing a shadow here in this lower world, that you're not going to be able to solve the problem on a sea level.
Yeah. I hear that a lot, and not from Kabbalah teachers, but just from even medical doctors that I'll interview who are kind of
in touch with that quantum physics,
Yes.
like think like Joe Dispenza type people. I've heard that over and over again. Our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. And it sounds like Kabbalah has kind of, they were the OG on this.
Yes.
on
Yes.
this.
So we're actually going even another layer of going internal. So what Joe Dispenza does, which is brilliant and amazing, will be kind of more on that mindset and on a physical science level.
Yeah.
Kabbalah goes on a cellular level. So it goes even one layer deeper and explains why everything Joe Dispenza is saying is accurate as well.
Okay.
Because I think when people start to learn the why, like you want to know why you married that man, why a person had to go through that divorce, why you have the children you have, why those souls chose you, why you went through this crazy breakup, why are you in a toxic relationship, why do we keep choosing certain things? These whys, people don't ask enough of the whys. People are always trying to just solve the problem, but it's so powerful to learn why we have everything that we have, because then you have the knowledge of wisdom of how to elevate beyond it and never to experience that chaos again.
Okay. So somebody who finds himself, in a financial rut, they want to start a business, but they're too afraid. What would Kabbalah say is the first step to take?
So let's workshop that, for example. So let's assume right now somebody's listening to us and they're thinking, what's my next move with my career? There's financial difficulty, not sure what my purpose is. Most likely, this person also has something similar in a different part of their life. And I'd want to see where the patterns are in terms of maybe their love life or their, relationships or friendships. I would want to know where all the ruts are, because wherever in your life you keep having starts and stops and some drama, there's some kind of indication that there's a soul correction that needs to happen.
Okay.
So for example, let's say a person's soul comes to this world with some kind of spiritual baggage around the fear of abandonment or the fear of failure. This is karmic baggage that we bring.
Mm-hmm.
And then by transforming it, we access miracles, we access soulmate energy, we access all the most beautiful things in this world that we want. But in order to access it, you have to find what your soul's correction is and transform it. So in this case, let's say it's fear of abandonment. What the soul will do is come down to parents who are perfect to awaken this negativity that's already hidden deep in the soul. The soul will also look forward and choose the relationships that are perfect to awaken this fear of abandonment or this fear of failure, or whatever the fears are that our souls bring to this world. Okay. And why we even have this is Kabbalah explains this as well, but I'm just trying to make it simple for
Right.
everyone. All right. So the reason why a person is in a rut is because there are spiritual blockages that they brought into this world that they have either not seen yet,
Mm-hmm.
Or they have seen, but they're not taking responsibility to transform. And when they transform it, then they energetically become on the same frequency as the frequency of miracles, or the frequency of the creator, or whatever you want to call it. And then all the gates open. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
How we started the company initially was, for about a year, I realized I'm broke. I'm helping everyone in this world. This is like after me giving 3,000 seminars, doing 20,000 hours of personal one-on-one coaching, and doing it all for charity and helping people have the most amazing lives. And then I find myself in my late 20s not experiencing the same miracles that I helped other people create. And then ended up falling into a kind of victim mindset. I'm like,
Right.
like, why would the universe do this to me after I've given so much of my life to other people? This ended up being kind of like a victim consciousness, a sadness, all these feelings that we might feel when we feel kind of betrayed. And I kind of felt betrayed by the universe for a moment. Then I realized, wait a second, what am I teaching other people? What would I teach someone who came to me with the same problem? Then I realized my soul probably came to this world just to heal and transform this feeling of being a victim. But the way I needed to experience that was to do so much for other people and not get a reward. Like my soul chose a scenario
Right.
where I gave and did not receive what I want so that I could feel like a victim, see the head of the snake essentially, and then transform it. At that moment, I realized I have to take responsibility and transform this. And I remember walking down New York City and kind of meditating. I'm going to now unconditionally be happy as if I have already received everything that I've ever wanted in my life. There's a lot of things I did. I talk about it in my classes and whatnot, about how to get to that consciousness and how to hit that vibration. And a lot of people talk about it, but Kabbalah kind of gives a real good system. And by the end of the day, I remember everyone was like, what happened to you? Like energetically, I totally decided to never be that way again. 7 days later is when we came up with the idea for the liquid vitamins.
Wow.
So many things could have gone wrong. We could have not had that idea. We could have come up with a different kind of concept that would have never worked. But the gates opened after I decided to take responsibility for my victim consciousness and tap into a different energy. And by the way, if that took me 3 years, the liquid vitamin idea would have been delayed 3 years.
Yeah.
That's the way we need to think about it.
Right. I hear that all the time though as well, act as if you already have it, and then the universe will match that. How do you act as if you're rich if you're not?
And by the way, that's just there are so many TikTok videos out there that kind of say like act as if you had it. This is just one small piece.
Right.
What Kabbalah explains is how we need to live our lives. So I'm kind of just giving a soundbite.
Right.
But Kabbalah explains so many other things, which is how do we just take all the negativity that we have, that we know about and we don't have, and then transform it. So one of them is this feeling of lack. We all walk around feeling like we're missing something. And the people that feel that most are the most successful people, ironically. The people who have the most actually feel that they don't have the most.
Really? I feel like wouldn't that counteract everything you just said about acting as if you have everything you want and then you'll match it?
I saw this amazing clip even that Will Smith gave, and he basically had said, after I achieved everything, that's the emptiest I felt. And the reason is because there's a part, our negative side keeps thinking, as I accumulate this, once I get this relationship, once I have this baby, once I break through this, and this, then I'm going to feel whole. And I can tell you firsthand, coming from the completely broke place to then obviously there's some level of success. And after I checked every single box of my goals, there's a momentary high. There's a momentary approval you get from everybody. And then 5 minutes later, the clapping is over. And you're back to feeling, wait a minute, I still feel like I'm missing something.
Right.
So this whole feeling of missing something, this is the spiritual work that when you fully transform that, then a whole new world opens up. And so I would say the first step of this consciousness is the work has to be done on the inside. It is not from acquiring or accumulating anything on the outside. It is not going to solve the internal problem. I kind of give this example. If a person smells bad because they haven't showered, like imagine somebody smells bad, they have BO. And then they come and they start spritzing cologne on themselves.
My favorite. Yes, I've dated him, I think.
Have you ever dated a guy who, instead of actually taking a shower and maybe even going deeper, like the reason why he smells is maybe he has gut health issues. Maybe there's like really deeper stuff that
maybe because he's eating like bologna sandwiches every meal.
Exactly. It's not even, the shower doesn't even help. Like he has to change his diet. But there are a lot of people that are just spritzing cologne on their BO. And not spiritually really going deep down inside and seeing what's going on.
Right.
I've seen this thousands of times because before the business world, it was just my coaching. So I would listen to story after story, every kind of human, every kind of scenario. And I'm curious, by the way, because you know your audience best. If you can bring up more scenarios, we can workshop it. So it's really relevant to people.
Yeah.
But people are constantly trying to change the external, and as opposed to really attacking the fears that exist on a deep internal level. And that's what Kabbalah does. Shows you what the issues are internally, shows you how to transform it. You come out the other end totally different, and then your reality changes.
Amazing. I'm going to try that. Okay. So I do know my audience, and you're so thoughtful to consider them. A lot of times I just, talk about whatever I want to talk about. But I know that they're wondering, how do I use the principles of Kabbalah to attract the most perfect love? Because I don't want to attract like a learning experience.
So you're not looking for another learning experience.
I don't think so. I think I'm learned.
Are you talking about you personally?
No. No. Yes.
Are you in a relationship now?
No.
Okay. All right. So give me a more specific example. Who is this woman?
Okay.
How old is she? What has she gone through?
Okay.
Let's have a little
All right,
fun.
we can use me. I'm not going to pretend like we're talking about anybody else here. So she's 35. It doesn't matter. She's,
No, she's 35.
Okay, she's 35.
That's a great age.
Yes. Yeah. I think so. She has gone through a divorce. How
long ago was the divorce?
Maybe let's say, 2 years ago.
Okay, so 2 years.
Mine was a year ago, but technically, those things take a while. And she wants to get back in a relationship, but kind of all her actions, I think, are pointing to the fact that she doesn't want to get into a relationship.
Okay, so what does she want?
I think she wants to be in a relationship, but like a real one.
What does this word real mean?
Not one that causes too many problems.
Okay, so let me break this down, because this is when I do like live coaching calls and people start telling me what they want in love life and business life. After 15 minutes go by, I have no clue what they want. So they say, I kind of want something real, and I want it to be like no drama, but I like when it's spicy, and I want him to be masculine but feminine. And I want him to know. It's so confusing what people want. So what the universe is getting confused. The creator gets confused because we're so not clear. Mm-hmm. And I know we're in similar situations. Like after my relationship transition, I was thinking, what do I want? And I realized going out into the dating world, not knowing what you want is
chaos.
Suicidal.
That's chaos.
That is chaos, because yes, we are such powerful manifestors, whether we realize it or not. If we have vague desires, we attract vague people. We attract vague relationships. We attract vague consciousness. And then we get frustrated because, especially if, for example, what does vague mean? It's pretty much unavailable. I sat down once with a group of single women, and they were telling me, it was kind of like a soulmate workshop we were doing. And I said, what do you want? The common theme was everybody wants like tall, dark, and unavailable. It's like they want the approval and the fun and the companionship and the connection and the hunt of this man that validates them. But at the same time, they love that maybe this person is slightly unavailable because it doesn't have to force them into the commitment that probably involves a lot more work that they realize subconsciously, right? Or there's a freedom that's lost, especially more of a type A woman who's a career-driven woman who loves her independence, who loves maybe she stays in shape and she takes care of herself. So then a lot of fears come up of, wait a minute, is someone going to take away my independence? Is someone going to hurt me again? What if I have more children? I remember what that was like, or what that could be like. I'm going to lose my body. These are all fears that I have heard being one-on-one with people. And because they're not aware of it, what are the subconscious signals they're sending out to the universe? I want it, but I don't want it. I want something serious, but I don't want something serious. I want a man who's XYZ, but I'm also afraid of his XYZ, because then that means that that's the last man I'm ever going to be within my life. and I still want to date around. So all of this becomes very confusing. So I would tell people, and I tell myself the same thing, and this applies to business and relationships. The more clear you are about what you want and what you're willing to go through, what you're willing to compromise, what pain you're willing to face, then energetically everything starts to line up.
Yeah.
So this woman, she's 35. She doesn't, you just told me she wants something real. Let's go deeper. Because these are the questions I ask people. And then we get to the source of the matter. And by the way, whatever you answer, I'm going to help thousands of people who are listening to us right now. So you know this. So tell me more about what she really wants. What was the last date she went on?
Well, before you came in here, like the first 10 minutes of every episode, I talk about like a most recent experience. And the most recent dating experience I had was I went on a date with this guy who surprised me with a hotel room on our fourth date. And
This is the fourth date.
Yeah. And I didn't want to sleep with him, and I didn't want to a hotel room with him, but like he thought that I did, evidently. And then it was just like this awkward situation where I was like, well, I gotta go because.
So you had 3 good dates.
You had 3. Well, this date wasn't all bad, but it ended with him just taking that real leap of assumption
without speaking to you about it.
Yeah, it was a surprise.
So you showed up to the date and then he said, surprise, I have this.
Yeah, we had dinner at a hotel and then he got a room at the hotel.
I see.
And I was like, well, I'm not staying.
Okay. And then why did it end after that?
It didn't end. I mean, that was like last week.
Okay. So then you told him no, and did he take it personally?
He said no, but I feel like every
man will take it personally.
Yeah, I think he probably felt rejected.
He felt rejected.
And like that I was ungrateful and
for all that he had done.
Mean for all that he had done. Yeah.
Okay. And did you communicate after that?
Yeah.
How so? How did you communicate?
Yeah, like we talked about it on the phone. I told him.
And what did he say?
And he said I think he got a little defensive from, he was like, well, just because I got the room doesn't mean like we needed to have sex. I'm like, okay, I guess not. Basically, he was like, well, you made all those assumptions. That's not what I was trying to suggest by getting the room.
So how is this man similar to other type of men that you've attracted? Or this woman has attracted?
This woman,
is there a pattern?
Random girl. Is there a pattern? I don't know that this is like anything she's ever attracted before. I guess lately I've been attracting guys, I think, that want things to happen really quickly. Like we'll be on like the second date and they're like, okay, so are you going to move to Florida? And when are we going to have a kid? And
that's odd because it's not like that usually.
Yeah.
So you're the one that wants to take things slow.
I think in the beginning, when I first started dating people, I was okay to jump right in. But now since I've, had some experience, just not like super crazy experiences, but I've had 2 people since my divorce where I'm like, okay, that was ridiculous that I was calling him my boyfriend after a month, like of knowing this person. And then they end up revealing to me that they're nobody I would ever want to date, let alone share a life with. So I'm like, okay, maybe it really does take 3 months to get to know somebody. So maybe I should pump the brakes. So now when I go on a date with somebody and they want things to go fast, I'm like,
I let them know right away.
Yeah.
You do. You know how powerful it is to be clear with men?
So.
This is something that's really important. Being clear with ourselves is great, but how powerful it is to be clear with men. And men respect us so much because there's a simplicity to the male mind, which is you show a target and they'll want to shoot for it. If you actually said more from the get-go, and obviously you have to be delicate in how you say these things. Like I've learned that it takes 3 months, X, Y, Z, and this is the kind of person I am, and these are things I love, and these are the things I hate. So if I went on a date, one of the first things I would want to know is, what do you love and what do you hate?
Yeah.
What do you love? What did you love and hate even about the last relationship? Because then it really sets expectation. Because I've seen it all. I've seen women that love the aggressive nature of a man who knows what he wants and pushes for it.
Yeah.
And then there's the woman that's like, whoa, that's too aggressive. Like, wait for things to come to you. And it's all over the place. And I think the one thing that can be improved in all of our relationships, and it's a spiritual thing, is having more communication and talking about difficult things, even early on, getting to know the person.
I think sometimes there's the worry, for me at least, that I don't want to pinch off potential by setting
too firm boundaries or rules in the beginning, because I'm always kind of open to maybe this is the exception.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the exception to the rule. I haven't been the exception yet, but I'm still open to it. And also like that no two situations are the same. So what would Kabbalah say about that?
If we're staying on the communication path, I would even say it's healthy to say that. Say, I have so many boundaries that I think are healthy and I've seen can create successful relationships, but I also don't want to set too many because I want to create some kind of open, spontaneous energy behind relationships. Even sharing that with a man is powerful.
Then he'd be like, okay, great. So none of your rules are firm.
Well,
so everything's up for debate.
Everything is up for debate. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Most men are avoidant. So they don't actually want to talk about things.
Yeah.
Or they have different kind of expectations. And then if you have an avoidant woman also, then it becomes just a very interesting dynamic. So let's go back to more of the spiritual side. What do you think, if I had to ask you, what do you really want? How clear is it?
What I really want, yeah, probably not super clear. Again, because I worry about having too clear of a vision and then cutting off my chance.
Okay, you just revealed like a soul correction, like a limited belief.
Okay.
If my vision is too clear, I will actually close off opportunity.
Yeah.
But actually, a clear vision is a perfect vessel to receive what is meant for you. What you just said is, I love having a lot of options.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So there's a part of you that just loves options. That part of you is going to be in conflict with the part of you that wants to settle down with one person.
Yeah.
And that's just like putting a parking brake on and having your foot on the gas. You have these conflicting belief systems. Here's another one. Let's say I want to be rich and successful, but I also believe that money is the root of all evil. I also believe that rich and successful people have chaotic lives. So now I have two desires, two belief systems that fight with each other every day. This kind of a person will always start a company and sabotage it. This kind of a person will always start a great job and find a way to leave it. Because as soon as they become successful, the other belief system of money is evil kicks in, and then you sabotage. I know a person who owns a business. She's successful, just maybe a couple dozen employees. She wants to grow her company. She wants to increase the revenue. But she also hates managing employees. She hates employees. She thinks, especially, they drive her nuts. She's maybe not the best manager herself. So what happens is she knows that if she becomes more successful, she has to hire more people. So what she does is when she's about to get a new client, she'll sabotage the client so she doesn't have to hire more people.
Yeah.
Now, she's not aware of this, and a couple of years go by and the business is flat, but that's actually what's happening. There are misaligned desires inside all of us that are competing and clashing, and that's why people aren't moving forward.
Yeah. So when we know that about ourselves, that we like to have a lot of options, but then there's another side of us that also wants to have that one special relationship, how do we then
merge those two worlds?
Yeah. How do we grapple with that? How do we fix it?
All right. Well, before we answer that, let's really just appreciate what you just said. And I'll also say astrology, Kabbalistically, what happens is when the soul comes to this world, the soul actually even picks the right month, time. Like sometimes when a soul is not meant to come to the world, there'll be a miscarriage or even abortion. All of that is determined by the soul.
Yeah.
Even a person who desires to have an abortion, this is actually the soul saying, I'm not ready to come down, which is pushing the parent to say, I don't want to have the child now.
Right.
It's very interesting. Miscarriages are the same way. Often miscarriages happen because the soul wasn't ready to come down at this time and needs to come down later. And I forgot what the stat is. It's like 20 to 30% of pregnancies end up in miscarriage.
Right.
This is the whole journey of the souls. But when the soul is ready to come down, it comes down exactly on a certain day, time, and location. And if you look at it astrologically, you can actually, a trained person can see what the soul corrections of this soul is, having come down to this world at that moment.
Right.
So you can actually learn about yourself much early on about what you're meant to do and to transform. For example, we could see way before that you like options.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard for you to commit to just one person. And then we'd have to dive deeper into that. But imagine knowing that information before you even start dating.
Right. It's pretty crazy. Like, there's ways to, I don't know, I don't want to go too much into astrology because I know people are skeptics about it.
There are.
But for me, it's like we have this blueprint, but how much of that is actually helpful if we're not really ready to work past these limitations?
That's the thing. So when you are ready to work past the limitations, which your astrological makeup will be very indicative of, you rise above your sign and you are no longer associated with astrology anymore. You're rising above the stars, essentially. That's what it means. And that's when you start to tap into the world of miracles. For example, I won't hire someone until I know their entire chart.
You're kidding.
If I'm going to seriously date someone,
yeah,
I literally have like astrologers on my payroll.
Yeah.
I have people who will look inside of it and look deeply. I have children. So when my children were born, I did their charts the day they were born. So I know how to talk to them.
Yeah.
I know how to talk to the oldest. I know how to talk to the youngest. And it's two very different. You start to learn what the triggers are of each person through astrology. And as a result, you can be a better communicator, negotiator, and have more empathy. That's essentially why I would.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% get it. I'm on board with you. You're preaching to the choir. I mean, even if you don't get it, it's so complicated, obviously, but I think a lot of people are willing to believe that there is some truth that maybe is way too complicated for most of us to comprehend or understand, but it's thousands of years old. And it sounds like Kabbalah and astrology are actually able to work together.
Abraham was the first astrologer, and he revealed all of the world's spirituality and religions, right? All the major religions came from that. So as you go more to the source of all of this, you start to see kind of what the wisdom is all about. So how does this woman who loves options, but also wants to settle down, how does she resolve this conflict?
Yeah. Well, for me, I got divorced. And I think also what I did with my first relationship, my marriage, was to choose somebody who I knew couldn't be faithful to me.
Oh, that's so powerful.
And I didn't cheat on him, but I think probably a part of me knew that it wasn't going to be forever. I really wanted to be a mom. And I think a part of me was like, we just need to do anything to achieve that. We didn't need to get married. I don't know why. I think I wanted to have a party, but anyway, I mean, I get along great with my ex-husband and it's fine, but
you manifested really the exact reality you desired, whether you were conscious or not conscious of it.
That's so funny because one of the things, me and my sisters had this powwow once, and we had to go around and say one thing that we liked about each other. Don't ask. This was like way too recently to be doing this with your 30-something-year-old sisters. And my youngest sister, Sophie, was like, you know, Aurora, I feel like you always make what you want happen, even like when it might not seem perfect to the outside world.
Yes.
It's like, it's actually what I wanted, which should give me hope that I'm a powerful manifester. I just need to get clear on what do I want.
That's the thing. You are a powerful man. So you are, because I've spoken to you before and I felt that. And I would just say, everyone listening, everyone is such a powerful manifester. And there's a lot of people who are just focused on a small percent of who they are, or they're thinking they're going to get lucky, or they're just going to kind of roll with it and see what goes on. This is an exact science. The reason why Elon Musk, for example, is so successful is because he is so clear about what he wants. And there's no limited belief system even about how it can manifest. He thinks it's easy to colonize Mars. He thinks it's easier to colonize Mars than most people think it's easy to get a date in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Right? So, and because he thinks it's easy, because he knows what he wants, because he doesn't want to die on this planet, he draws in the right engineers, the right ideas, he bends the universal laws to his will.
Yeah.
He changes laws, he changes policy, all because he's so clear about what he wants. And everyone listening, like, when you become clear, when you align your desires, when you can finally accept that there's also a part of you that likes being single, there's a part of you that doesn't want to be too successful, or there's a part of you that actually likes the drama of a toxic relationship because you can now fix it. And when you fix it, you feel your best. And when it's too healthy, you have nothing to fix, so you don't feel good about yourself. And you start to look at all these things, and one by one, you heal it and you're real with it. Everything starts to come together and become so beautiful. And yes, the Kabbalah is kind of like the system that like walks you through it and helps you navigate that. It's not just like, oh, here's one concept, there's another concept. The system is there. I know we can't go too deep into it right now, but I would just tell everybody, like, whatever life you want, whatever you desire, it means the creator created it for you to receive it. You wouldn't want something that you weren't going to eventually receive sometime in your life.
Right.
How quickly you receive it is our free will. Everything you desire, you will eventually get, even if it takes lifetimes. But if you want to get it quickly, if you want to get it with blessing, without chaos, that's the free will. And we have to work on becoming the suitable vessel to receive that energy, as opposed to trying to shove the energy into the old vessel.
Right.
If I have so the waiter brings me a $5,000 glass, a $5,000 bottle of wine, a premium wine, and I'm asking him to pour it into this cold brew. It's an empty cold brew can with some residue of coffee in it. And I say, I would love to try that wine. Can you just pour it in here real quick? He's going to look at you and be like, this wine will completely lose its value if I pour it into this can. The soulmate is the $5,000 bottle of wine that we want. The current vessel we have is this cold brew can.
We're a dirty can.
We're a dirty can. We're a dirty can in many ways. And as soon as you stop being a dirty can,
Yeah.
the energy comes. And if this person lives in, let's say, South Africa, they will feel a strong desire to have to come to Los Angeles the moment you have earned your soulmate by purifying your vessel.
Yeah.
Everything in Kabbalah is about how do I purify my consciousness, how do I purify my vessel, how do I become attractive, not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally. How do I take responsibility for every single thing? How do I vibrate on such a high level and at the same time learn how to let go so that I'm not trying to control what I think is mine?
Right.
And it's so powerful. Literally in one day, a person's whole destiny can change.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, like, where do we learn Kabbalah, for God's sake? I know you gave me a book once. Well, you recommended a
Did
book.
I give you videos or book?
You recommended a book on your Instagram, and I was like, okay, but I don't read. I only listen to Audible. So
Yes,
and then you gave me an Audible book, and I started listening to that. Very like rudimentary,
Yes.
but good.
So the content I put out on my Instagram is just like bite-sized clips that kind of inspire. But it all leads to a masterclass I created about 6 years ago. So I've been giving this course called Kabbalah 1 for about 20 years. Someone took the class, changed their life. They donated probably $1 million to help professionally produce this masterclass, all for charity. So I created this about 20, 30 hours of content. That's the course everyone around the world listens to. People can pay whatever they want for it. Pay $1, pay nothing. It doesn't matter. It all goes to charity. And it goes step by step into how to live a spiritual life to manifest everything you want. And I'll tell you one thing, all the great speakers around this world, the Joe Dispenzas and the Tony Robbins, and they have all connected to this wisdom and heard it as it is put out. And they have used it in their content. The people who follow me or follow my colleagues are the therapists of the world, the spiritual leaders of the world, the people who are looking to get healthier, to get wiser, and they're using Kabbalah as a framework of how to do it. So that's the masterclass. It's practically free, and people can start there. And
Where can they find it?
The website is called Kabbalah1.com, KABBALAHONE.com. And I would say, I always tell people after the first hour, they'll never see life the same again. And what they can expect is that they're going to see their relationships differently. They're going to be able to see their business differently. They're going to be able to transform their doubts and anxiety to certainty. I've had a lot of people literally get off of medication or antidepressants because they realized that they had the power within themselves to activate it the whole time. So many people. I have about 4,000 to 5,000 people a month who take this course, and I get messages from all around the world. Muslims, Christian, Jews, atheists. I had a Scientologist recently.
Wow.
Say this has helped me so much. It's all over the board, and it's accepted.
Okay. I can't wait. I'm going to download it right or it's just a website. We don't have to download it, right?
Just a website.
Okay. So I saw you talk about this on your Instagram, and I knew I had to ask you about it because a lot of what I do here is share things about my life when it's an infancy. Like
Right in the beginning.
Yeah, right in the beginning.
I noticed you do that, yes.
Yeah. And obviously we've already determined that maybe I'm not in a relationship yet because I probably don't really want to be and all of those things. But you say that you should not share during the embryonic phase of anything because it's too vulnerable.
Correct.
Okay. So explain that.
So in the beginning stages of anything, before it solidifies, it's in its embryonic state energetically. And what happens is when you share something with someone and it awakens any kind of jealousy, and jealousy by definition is any kind of lack. So for example, let's say a woman gets pregnant and she's 6 weeks in and she tells her sister, hey, guess what? I'm pregnant. And your sister maybe is 2 years older than you and she doesn't have a baby, but she loves you. She says, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. But it awakens in her. So she's 37 and she's like, well, I'm getting older now. And my sister, I'm so happy for my sister, but I wish I could have children. That thought alone is called jealousy. It's evil eye. And what that thought does is it starts to draw energy and pull energy from your baby. Because there's energy around the baby. There's light, there's happiness. And now her lack starts to draw. This is why we don't like to be around people with lack. We like to be around positive people who give energy, who are certain, who are strong, because that emits a vibration. People who are sad or jealous or angry or frustrated, they drain our energy. Why do you feel drained being around somebody who's a victim? Even if they don't talk and you stand next to them, you feel drained.
Yeah.
Because that's evil eye. There's a black hole of energy we can't see and they're pulling from you. So what are they pulling from? They're pulling from the baby. So the chances of a miscarriage increase when you tell someone or tell anybody you're pregnant, besides absolute people who need to know. A doctor and your significant other, I would say. I wouldn't even tell my parents, to be honest.
Wow. I mean, is that scientifically proven? Chances of miscarriage increase if you tell people in early stages?
Well, I'll tell you something. Chances of a business failing increase when you tell people. The chances of lawsuits coming increase as you tell people how successful you are. The chances of people taking advantage of you increase when they know how much money you have. I've learned to prosper in silence. Nobody knew the size of our company for 8 years. People, everywhere I went, people are like, oh, you have this cute little vitamin brand.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you guys sell? Do you sell at the local? And I'd be like, yeah. And then
you're like, why are you driving a Ferrari?
I'm like, that's I just rented that to look cool. So no, it wasn't until 8 years in a press release came out that we didn't want. That showed what the company was like. And then
everyone comes out of the woodwork.
Everybody came out of the woodwork with their hand out.
Yeah.
And so energetically, problem started. I've always learned you have something good, you conceal it. I share personal stuff all the time, but after it's kind of exited its embryonic state. With pregnancy, it says 90 days is the ideal because it takes 90 days for the soul of the baby to come down into the embryo, and that soul kind of gives it more, it solidifies it more. That's also when the woman starts to show, and it's all spiritually connected.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that because I recently had my credit card stolen my identity stolen, and they opened up a credit card and like racked up all this stuff. It also takes 90 days for your credit report to be fixed too. This is a very spiritually significant number.
Yes. Like if you start dating someone you like them, don't tell your friends.
Okay.
Don't tell anybody because, gosh, I mean, your friends, as much as they love you, for sure they're like, I wish I had a guy like that. I wish he was interested in me. I wish this, I wish that. There's so many soul corrections at play, and so it will make it harder for you.
Interesting. My podcasts are going to have to start airing 90 days.
90 days after. But I know your audience loves that you share things in real time.
Yeah, they do. But
I haven't shared anything that's super close to my heart.
Sure.
That I do protect. Usually, like these are casual dating experiences, but maybe I'm squashing the potential before it even starts.
I would say especially in the very beginning. Yes.
Yeah.
And here's something else. I would say we have to be really careful about sharing things that could also make someone else look bad. So Kabbalah talks about evil eye, but there's also evil speech. So 90% of the chaos we have in our lives come from 10 different types of speech that create negative forces.
What if you're talking anonymously about somebody?
That is much better.
Yeah, but it's not perfect.
But if there's any way that somebody could find out, you have to be careful. That's all. So there's 10 kinds of evil speech. Let's say, for example, complaining is one of them. Or speaking badly about someone when it's true is a problem. Speaking badly about someone when it's a lie is a different kind.
Right.
Brown nosing, trying to flatter someone just to get their approval is a form of evil speech. And if you really think about it, probably 90% of our words fall under the category of evil speech.
It's horrible.
It's horrible. Right? And it creates these negative angels, these negative forces that cause chaos in our lives. And also, how much do you trust somebody who's always talking about other people?
Oh, I don't trust them at all.
No one does.
Yeah.
And so even if they're talking about somebody else, you're thinking in the back of your mind, well, one day they're going to be talking about me. And that negativity is also something I would tell people who are listening. The more silent you can be during the day, the more you can just listen and not speak and have an opinion about everyone or everything. Watch your love life get better. Watch you're going to make more money. People tell me, what's the secret to making wealth? I say, just shut up. If you become silent, you'll make more money.
Really? I don't know. I have a podcast.
Well,
Sorry.
Here's what's amazing about your podcast. Your podcast is inspiring, right? The words that are coming, it's helping people move through stuff. It's helping people become inspired. It's helping them become better. If your podcast was just about criticizing and making fun of people, you might make money, but then the money won't have blessings. And I've seen this. I've looked at thousands of companies. I looked at thousands of personas of people, how they make money, the way they do it. And even if they're successful, I know their lives behind the scenes. And it's like their success is built on negativity.
Right.
And eventually they either lose it or they're suffering anyways.
So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. They can't sleep at night. They're on medication. They don't know how to spend their money. They're cheap. It just sits there. Their family starts fighting about it, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So I guess there's two things. One is evil eye and jealousy. Protect everything you have. Don't talk about it too quickly. But also be careful with your speech. More and more, just to learn to be silent.
Yeah.
Listen to people. And there's a third one I can share with you around evil eye. Every time you worry about someone, you're also draining energy from their soul and you're causing them to go through chaos. And this is especially with parents and kids.
Yes, I know. Every time I've heard you say that before too on Instagram, and I'm like, oh my God, my poor kids. And then I was worried about my worries of how my worries are affecting my kids.
Yes. And we think worry is a love language. We think we love people by worrying about them. But the more we worry, the more we have doubts, the more we think about them from that point of view, we actually penetrate their aura. We break down their protective shield, and it causes them to go through chaos.
Oh, I'm not going to worry about my kids anymore. Oh my God.
Sorry we had to end on that one.
I know. I have so many more questions. I feel like we need to have you back on because this just, I could go on forever. Thank you so much for all your wisdom.
Me, of course.
And I'm excited just to hear the feedback because I know people are going to be implementing the principles of Kabbalah into their own lives. And I can't wait to hear all the stories about that. Thank you everybody for listening. And thank you for being with us, David.
Thank you.